We pulled up in a little one-way street. Sandra got out. I'm looking in the wing mirror. I see her go to cross the road. Thought she'd gone.
Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 shocking revelations on life stories.
I did my bit. I said what I had to.
Did they air that? No. It just got suppressed.
Before we begin, we publish new content every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.
For this list, we're looking at the most eye-opening interviews on the ITV show, fronted by Piers Morgan and Kate Garraway. Let us know in the comments who you prefer, Garraway or Morgan. Number 10, Mel B.
There were rumours that you and Jerry were, more than just good friends. You'd had a little dabble. Anything you want to share with the group?
Scary Spice arrived and promised Piers should be 100% honest about everything. Perhaps unsurprisingly, he turned the spotlight onto her love life, giving her the names of various celebs and asking if they'd gone to bed together. She had some fun anecdotes about Peter Andre, but eventually Piers addressed long-standing rumours that Mel B and Geri Halliwell had a fling.
On your
Why
books...
can't you answer for me?
I don't know anything.
Oh, whatever, Melanie!
I don't. This is all new to me.
Melanie Chisholm in the audience wouldn't comment, and eventually Mel B admitted that it was true, but it wasn't a big deal.
But it wasn't a thing. It just happened, and we just giggled at it, and that was it.
How many times did it...
Oh, stop it, you pervert!
Still, Ginger Spice reportedly wasn't happy about this dirty laundry being aired and has consistently denied the story. Number 9. CHERYL Cole.
CHERYL was in serious trouble and was rushed to intensive care.
In this brutally honest interview, Piers wanted to get the inside scoop on the time CHERYL came down with malaria back in 2010. She'd been in Tanzania, but returned to the UK for the X Factor, where her symptoms got extremely bad very quickly. She talked to Piers about how she almost died as the illness got progressively worse.
God, I really don't want it to be morbid. I really don't want it to be like this.
But I think people are realising, probably for the first time, how serious this was.
For a while, it was even touch and go for the pop star, and this was all despite taking the correct tablets to try and prevent malaria ahead of her trip. It was hard for CHERYL to watch her family and friends talk about that time and how she was rushed to hospital for blood tests.
It's a cliche, but does your life flash before you in a moment like that? What are you thinking? Your family around you?
It doesn't seem real. It's very, very surreal.
Number 8. James Corden.
What went wrong between you and Matt?
We never fell out. That was never what it was.
Love him or hate him, and it seems the majority of people are in the latter camp these days, it was still surprising to see Corden talk about some of the tougher moments of his career. Specifically, Piers wanted to know about Corden's old creative partner, Matthew Horne.
If I have one regret, it's that we just rushed those things. We rushed them.
The two rose to fame through Gavin and Stacey, and even had their own sketch show.
But you went from that to nothing. I mean, what's the situation now between you and him?
I love him. I love him. And
do you talk much?
We talk occasionally.
But the duo aren't really friends anymore, with Horne declining to appear on Corden's Life Stories episode to talk about him. Though they did later reunite to celebrate 10 years of Gavin and Stacey, when Piers revealed that Horne refused to appear, Corden was devastated.
We asked him to take part in this programme.
Right.
And he chose not to.
I didn't know that.
Number 7. Anton Dubek. This interview with one of Strictly's best-loved stars quickly turned dark when Kate Garraway started by asking him about his childhood.
The showman appeared to put an end, in your mind, to that period.
I mean, I hate the thought that anything like that sort of defines you.
Anton and his siblings opened up about their father's alcoholism, with Anton bearing the brunt of his aggression.
The next thing you know, you're into the violence starts. And then it came to a head one evening. I mean, I ended up in hospital for 3 days.
Shockingly, his father stabbed him multiple times one Boxing Day, leaving him hospitalised. He even said he changed his name to Anton Dubek to gain some separation from his traumatic childhood.
I got stabbed. I've never said this out loud before. and I got stabbed in the leg and in the stomach.
Many of the things brought up on the show he'd never talked about before to anyone, making for an extraordinarily candid piece of television. Number 6. TRISHA Goddard.
I couldn't watch it. And you're told you haven't got a sense of humour.
Her talk show was hugely popular throughout the noughties, and she got very honest with Piers about what it was like growing up as a black woman in Britain in the 60s and 70s. It's hard to hear about the abuse and racism Goddard suffered while at school, going through bullying that now sounds very extreme.
And I know I've only discovered recently that my kids got bullied for it. Really bullied for it.
And then she talked about being parodied on the popular but contentious sketch show Bo Selector, which she refused to watch.
You know, we'd even go to the teachers and say, you know, I'm being bullied, and the teachers would laugh and say, well, it's on TV, sort of get a sense of humour.
Piers showed a message from Keith Lemon apologising for what he did in Bo Selector that was previously posted on social media, but then revealed that Goddard and Lemon were harassed even more afterwards.
Unbelievably, this then sparks even more abuse to you than you probably had the first time round when all this was aired.
Way more. The nastiest, most evil.
Because now there's social media.
Number 5. Freddie Flintoff. He became a world-class cricketer by the age of 20, but in recent years has opened up about how, since his athletic career took off, he struggled with bulimia.
Of all the things that I discovered about you in recent years, that was one of the most shocking. I would never have guessed you'd ever had any form of bulimia.
This was the late 90s, and the press at the time began running stories mocking Flintoff's weight gain, which contributed to him developing AD.
And when you saw that, you're a young man, you're doing very well at your cricket, but suddenly there's this massive selling newspaper mocking you for being fat.
It was hard for his friends and family to talk about on the show, and this was one of the first times the issue was discussed publicly. Flintoff has gone on to make documentaries about men who also suffer with eating disorders to try and address the stigma.
When was the last time you made yourself sick?
I can't physically remember, which is a good thing.
But a long time?
Yes.
Number 4. Harry Redknapp. Even after decades of marriage, Harry and Sandra Redknapp remain loved up and inseparable. But it was hard for him to relive this dark moment when he accidentally ran Sandra over.
A couple of years before that, you'd had another terrible incident with Sandra when you'd accidentally run her over.
Yeah.
He ran over her ankle and she suffered some truly horrific injuries. This happened in 2016 and it was reported by the tabloids.
Wrecking her rose garden's one thing, Harry, but running her over is a severe test of even your wife's patience.
Harry still regards this as one of the worst days of his life, a complete freak accident that could have happened to anyone. He opened up about another car accident too, in Italy, in 1990. His friend Brian Tyler tragically lost his life, along with the passengers in the other car.
Brian was a fantastic guy. He was always there for me. So it was, for me, it was horrendous, tragedy.
Number 3, Gemma Collins. Star of Towie, Gemma Collins' life and career have had plenty of ups and downs over the years.
It's hard to watch.
Notably, she's often been open about struggling with her weight and people's reactions to it, as well as other tragedies in her personal life that led her to grow extremely depressed. They talked a lot about the impact of social media on her mental health and the many personal attacks she's gone through online, including death threats.
Getting death threats is not a joke. It's not only abuse, it's actually that's terrifying.
All that in mind, it was brave of her to go and talk candidly to Piers, especially when he read out some of the horrible things that were said about her online and in public.
I would normally say, well, they'd never say it to your face, but some people did say this to your face. They would shout it in the street at you.
Yeah.
Number 2, Michael Barrymore. Former star of the small screen, Michael Barrymore mostly disappeared from the public eye around 2001 after the widely publicised death of a party guest at his home, Stuart Lubbock.
All 3 were released without charge. But the damage to Michael's career seemed irreversible.
Barrymore and his fellow partiers were questioned by the police many times, but nobody was ever charged despite evidence of foul play. Barrymore talked about details of the case that he'd not previously discussed in public, including why he supposedly fled the crime scene. He said he decided to leave to avoid the inevitable media circus, and that it was a mistake.
Michael Parker, me, has an alibi from 3 people in the period immediately prior to the discovery of Stuart in the pool, I therefore conclude that there is insufficient evidence against all 3 suspects.
He also read out his letter from the CPS exonerating him because he had a clear alibi.
The truth about this, Michael, isn't it, is that we may never know the truth.
Yes.
Number 1. John Lydon. Also known as Johnny Rotten, though he hates the moniker now, John Lydon may be a contentious figure, but there was something he was very right about, decades before others were sounding the alarm.
I bet he's into all kinds of seediness that we all know about but not allowed to talk about.
In 1978, Lydon did an interview with the BBC in which he talked about Jimmy Savile, still a popular entertainer.
I know some rumours. I bet none of this will be allowed out.
Piers had the recording, and we could hear Lydon blowing the whistle about how sinister Savile was.
Most kids wanted to go to the top of the pops, but we all knew what that cigar muncher was up to. But I'm very, very bitter that the likes of Savile and the rest of them were allowed to continue.
In the years since, it's of course become clear not only that all the horrible stories about Savile and his crimes were true, but that powerful people at the BBC were covering them up.